Okay, I think we're live. All right.
Awesome.
Hey, I am Lisa Limita from Rise Leadership Circle, and I'm here today with Alex VandeHei, who I'm so excited to introduce you to her. If you guys have been following along with us, then you know we've been doing this series called How She Did It, where we are pulling back the curtains, going behind the scenes with 10 different entrepreneurs who've built multi-six and seven-figure businesses. And I think we always want to know, like, how did they do it? Did they have some magical formula? How did they invest? How did they get started? So we're going to jump into that, but let me tell you just a little bit about Alex because she is really incredible. So Alex is a mom of two, and she's got one on the way. She's based out of De Pere, Wisconsin, and she's the co-owner of a company called High Pro Digital. HiPro is a boutique digital marketing agency, and it specializes in web design and SEO for female entrepreneurs and employee-owned companies. And I have to tell you, Kayla and I have been customers of Alex and HiPro ever since we got started. And so if you want to see her work, go check out our beautiful website. It's amazing. So Alex grew from a solo entrepreneur in 2017 to a team of 10 plus, a business partner, and $250,000 business in 2020. She's also the co-founder of The Nest, which is a co-working space in downtown Green Bay that's so beautiful and amazing. And actually, Alex and Kayla and one other amazing woman are partners in that business. And I think we just jump in right here, Alex. Go ahead and did I miss anything?
Oh my gosh. No, I mean that covers most of it, but it's been a whirlwind since 2017. And I hired Kayla right out of the gates when I was first getting started. I was on maternity leave in 2017 with my first, and I was like debating, do I go back to work? So I went back to work for like 4 weeks, but I know at that point I was like, all right, I'm done and I'm going to watch my kiddo. But I reached out to Kayla because I saw that she was doing well on her own. And I was like, so I remember specifically being like, how many hours a week do you work, Kayla? And she probably thought that question was so weird. But I was just like such a baby entrepreneur at that point. And I jumped into her Enter Entrepreneurship program. And that's what really set me off on the right foot.
Yeah, so exciting. So that was your first investment, right? Was Enter Entrepreneurship. And I remember when Kayla created that very first group program, we weren't partners
Yeah.
yet. We were each kind of separately doing our own thing. And for you
Mm-hmm.
guys that are watching, I'm going to tell you about, at the end, stay tuned. I'm going to tell you about the Rise Up Ripple Out grant application. Right now, we're giving away 5 opportunities for a woman to win $2,000 to invest in her business, just like Alex did. So stay tuned. I'm going to tell you about that and how to at the end. But Alex,
Awesome.
okay, so Enter Entrepreneurship was your first investment. How
Mm-hmm.
like how how did it feel to take that leap and like spend the money when you didn't really quite have the business yet? What led you to do that?
I didn't even know. It was just a leap of faith because I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. So I was trying to like dabble into this online world and, grow a business from scratch. And I remember specifically asking my husband, like, what do you think of this? And I was out of sorts in terms of like how much that costed, but I think I knew that if I didn't take that leap, I wasn't going to be able to bring it back to myself, or I knew there would be an ROI on it. So as long as I nailed whatever X amount of clients to pay for that, it would be worth it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. How did you get the resources for that first investment? Did you pull it out of savings? Did you put on credit card? Like, what was that process like for you?
Yeah, well, I think my husband and I like to put everything on our credit card just so that we can get the rewards and we pay off our credit card monthly. So I probably put it on a credit card, but at the time I was in a full-time job, so I was making decent money in my full-time job to be able to pay for it. But then I was quitting my job too, so it was definitely a risk and a leap of faith just to make it happen. But I do know part of that program, and that Kayla had talked to me about was, you're going to make, like, part of this program is to have you gain some clients to be able to pay it for it. So I think that was also part of the leap of faith.
Yeah, having to take that leap of faith and trust yourself to be like, okay, I'm going to invest in this, but I also am trusting myself that I'm going to, create a return on investment that results in clients coming back to me. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an important conversation. We're trying to normalize this conversation around money because we work with a lot of women who are entrepreneurs, and just like you did, you invested personal money into your business to get started. I think that's the way for most of us that we start, unless we're building a huge brick and mortar and maybe we're getting a bank loan or something like that. But even then, right, a lot of us are investing our personal funds into getting started. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, and the other thing too that I think is great to, you said you had a conversation with your husband, and that's a conversation that comes up a lot, is sometimes our husbands are like, wait, what are you doing? What are you investing in? Or partners, or,
Mm-hmm.
whoever. For some people, it's just family members or friends that are like kind of questioning.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you don't mind speaking into that. Like, did he really just support you from the get-go and like, yeah, this is great? Or, what was that part of it like?
Gosh, it's hard to bring me back to that specific conversation with him because I've had so many over the course of the years with him about and what I'm investing in. Now I'll just admittedly say, like, I do not check with my husband to say, do you mind if I invest in this? Like, it's my business, so I make the decisions. Um, to be frank, there. But at that time, I think it was, he was pretty supportive right away, but he is also skeptical, like questioning, do you need this type of support in order to even start a business or do this? I know another big investment right away at the beginning of my company was investing in branding. So before I grew my team, I didn't, I DIY'd my logo, but I knew to have it professionally done by somebody who knew what they were doing in branding at the time was important. So I spent $1,000 just on a logo design and, the color scheme and fonts and stuff like that to look professional. And that was a big decision too. Um, and I think it was a matter of saying to Jake, like, literally, I can't do this myself. So if I want to be professional and have a professional presence or business, I have to invest in these things. So,
And it's not
and
to pick
just,
on Jake because I know he's super supportive of you, and
no.
he's amazing. It's just I really want to normalize the conversation because I think that sometimes women, particularly when they're just getting started, right? It's easy once you're established and you're just like, my business is going and I make the decisions, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how it is, right? But it's like that getting started conversation that I just see it all the time. It holds people back, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
they're like, and it's not the husband's fault either. It's because if we're not trusting ourselves, we're looking outside of us like, what do you think? Like, give me your opinion. And not that that's a bad thing. It can be great to have that conversation, but it is about trusting yourself. And that's what I'm hearing you say is the end of the day, you just trusted, you had a conversation, but you really trusted you were going to make that return on investment back.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that you're talking about the normalizing the conversation, how easy is it for us to just jump out of high school and go into college and get ourselves into like way more debt and invest in that because it's normal, like everybody does that, but yet it's a big decision to spend $1,000 on something or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
It's so crazy, right? It's like, yes, go spend $100,000 or whatever, $50,000 on that education. But what, you're going to spend like $1,000 to start your business? No, wait a minute. Like, it's just,
Right.
I know things are shifting, but these are the initial hurdles we have to go through. And I think people are so curious because, now, like the level you're at now, it's like, well, sure, I would spend $1,000 in my business easily. But for somebody who's just getting started and they don't have clients yet or they don't have evidence yet, I think these conversations are so helpful
Mm-hmm.
because it's so hard to take that first like leap of faith. But the more that you hear other women doing it and you hear their success stories, it's like, okay, yeah, right, I can do this too.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I always put it into this perspective too, is like if you were starting a bakery, like I think also this it's because it's this online world, right? Like you don't have overhead, you don't have a brick and mortar to keep the lights on. And some I know some people in your community do have brick and mortars, but because of this like online world we live in, it's expected that you can just create a business without any money, but I don't think that's necessarily the the best practice, because even if like if you put yourself in a brick and mortar shoes, if you're starting a bakery, like how do you literally start a bakery without an oven? You have to have that. So when it comes to the online world, how do you how do you start that business, if it's online coaching or photography or something, whatever those businesses are? How do you literally start that business without having support or an online presence, or a bookkeeper, all those types of things?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like you have to have the support that you need to fill in the gaps, because if you're just relying on yourself, eventually it's going to hold you back from growing as much as you could. I have to say,
Hmm.
it's been like such a joy to watch your business go from startup to the amazing company that you have now. A team of 10, a business partner, a second business. I mean, you are just badass. You have always been. And,
Thank you.
you have a ton of like belief in yourself. I'm like, okay, I don't know how, but I'm going to do this. Right. And you just keep taking the next step. What are some ways that you've significantly invested, like from that initial investment? How have you continued to invest to get to the place where your company is today?
Yeah, I would say, and I told this when we were in Savannah, told this story a little bit, on stage at the We Rise retreat in Savannah. But it was first like hiring a virtual assistant, which I was like, how do I pay for a virtual assistant, right? And I don't, what am I going to have them do? It was investing in, the level up coaching, not just the enter entrepreneurship coaching. It was, working with you and Kayla, to level up that coaching that I was getting and the thought process and strategies we were coming up with. It was hiring a bookkeeper right away. It was I remember specifically when we moved back to Green Bay from Minneapolis in August of 2018. I had this like, I had these clients and I'm like, I literally can't get more clients and do the work. So Kayla challenged me to outsource and hire, some subcontractors to help me get the work done. And that was a significant like investment and risk, because they were literally cutting into the money that I would be making on those projects. Um, but the trade-off was, especially with subcontractors, is like you have to have the work in order to give them the work. So I knew that, and what helped me get past that hurdle is I knew that, I wouldn't have to pay them out of pocket if I didn't have the work anyway. So it was easy to kind of rely on that and take that leap of faith. Um, what else? I've hired even more support as it came down to, um, like financial growth and accounting, and knowing like what am I doing from a financial perspective. And so I hired a financial advisor, which was a big expense. Um, Gosh, so much, just little stuff,
Yeah.
along the way too.
And it's been one step
Investing
at a
in
time.
advertising. Yeah. What's that?
Yeah, one step at a time, right? It's like,
Mhm.
okay, I made my first investment, it was in having some support. And then I up leveled into a higher level of support. And then I started building a team. And it was just one VA at first. It was like me and her. And then it was a subcontractor. And I was like, oh,
Mhm.
I need a bookkeeper. You know what I mean? It's like, I think sometimes people get afraid because they are looking at a company like yours that has all these pieces in place and it's super successful, and you have a team and they're like, well, I could never do that. But it just happens one step at a time.
Oh
One
yeah.
investment at a time, one step at a time. You master that, you take the next step. And honestly, I mean, I feel like for you things went quite quickly. Like once you invested in that first team member, it seems like from there the pieces fell into place pretty quickly.
Mhm. Yep. And last year we hired our first actual full-time employee. So we're paying her a full-time salary every year. which is the ultimate scary, because whether we have the work or not, we have to
You're
pay her.
committed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So,
amazing. And so great though when you're at that level, because then it's no longer just you. It's like you get to build the dream arm in arm with these people,
hmm
with the team that you have, which I think just makes it so exciting.
hmm
So I would love to know, Alex, like, what do you wish every entrepreneur knew about investing in their business?
I wish they knew it's going to pay them back, whether it's literally with whatever they're investing in, right? They see that ROI on that, or it's going to be in some other way. Like, what we put out is what we'll get in. And I truly believe that, because every time I like drain my bank account, I have a check come in. It's crazy how it works. It's just a matter of like the fact that you're hoarding money. I mean, maybe you're not hoarding money, but right. But it seems like whenever it's like I'm holding on to it so tight, there's no room or space for it to come in. And that sounds so woo woo. I know this community is more woo woo than even I am, but like it's so true. And I'm not a super woo woo person.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. But it is so true, right? And it's like, of your own understanding, it's like, yeah, I'm noticing when I'm in scarcity and I feel like I need to hold on to it, I'm blocking the flow. But every time I'm in trust and I'm like, okay, here's my next level, it's aligned, I feel it, I'm in trust and I'm investing, you
hmm
know, all of a sudden it comes back to me. And I think it's really about that alignment piece. It's not to say that, like, oh, you just go drain your bank account, you're going to have all this money come to you.
Right.
But it's about an aligned choice. It's like, hey, I'm not in scarcity, I'm in trust. And this next thing is the place I feel called to go. And so I'm going to trust myself and go. And I know that when I do that, it's going to come back to me.
Totally.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love it. So, what would you do if you had a $2,000 cash injection in your business today? How would you use it today?
Oh, that's a good question. I would probably invest in, I'm just trying to think of like the needs right now. um, Probably invest in some sort of learning or like training, professional development for myself and or my team. I just think that constantly, the part of our growth is constantly learning, and whether it's learning from a coach or learning from a specific course. I don't personally do well with like self-paced courses. I need like somebody hand holding me, or like meet at this time for a live event, so I like to do that kind of stuff. But there's some trainings out there that Elizabeth and I definitely have our eye on, that we would probably invest in something like that.
I love that. And, it just speaks to the level of growth that you had, I think, is in direct alignment with the way that you continually invest in your own expansion.
hmm
Anytime we're investing in our expansion, investing in our learning, like there's always an ROI on that. Doesn't
hmm
not everything has to be just investing to learn how to get a client, but if you're just expanding yourself personally, that is going to come back to us in the way that we show up in the world and the way we're able to support people.
I I think that is a direct result of the self-confidence that people have, right? So if I'm learning and I have the knowledge and I know my craft and I know what I'm doing, I'm going to have more confidence to sell it to somebody else, or to enroll them into what I'm doing and my vision and why. And so I think that's key. If you're not investing in yourself, learning and knowing your craft and knowing your worth, you're not going to have the confidence, and people are going to see that when you like go to pitch them, or they are going to hire you, and then they're not going to. So it's all in direct correlation.
That is so well said. And that is so true. I always want to invest in people who are investing in themselves, who are growing, because I know they can support me. And I think, early on, some people get stuck in that, right? It's like they're not willing to invest, or they're in scarcity, and they don't realize that that's why they're attracting client after client who's like, oh, I can't afford you. I can't afford you, right? We shift internally and then it gets reflected out. Not to get
Mhm.
too woo, but it's so true.
No, that's okay. I'm used to that.
So,
Did you get?
I mentioned this grant, and I just want to speak into that a little bit. So, Alex, as she mentioned, has been a member of our community for several years, which has been amazing. And she has been sharing with you today, like how those investments have really paid off for her again and again. And not to say that you have to invest in us, but just the investing in yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
so Kayla and I, as one of the things we did starting this business is we knew we wanted to do business differently. We were like, how do we do business different? What's our way of doing business? When we started Rise Leadership Circle, and at the heart of that, we talked about this ripple effect, right? How do we, like, every time a woman invests in herself and says yes, how do we take that and make a ripple effect? So as I've shared with some of you before, we've just earmarked some money from every single investment to set aside so that we could create a ripple effect out into the community. And in this case, it's in the form of the Rise Up Ripple Out grant. So we're giving away 5 $2,000 grants to entrepreneurs who are ready to make a bigger impact. So this is no strings attached money. And we know, this has been an interesting year. And sometimes it is so helpful when we have a little help with those investments, right? So if you're an entrepreneur out there who is ready to invest in any way that you see fit, whether that's investing in your own expansion, as we were talking about today, whether it's investing in some level of support, your first team member, or even like paying yourself. Maybe you've not taken a paycheck for a while from your company. Like, it's whatever, is going to be right for you. We invite you to apply. I popped the link in the live chat here. So feel free to apply, click on the link and go ahead and apply today. And you'll get to come to our retreat. We're also offering a ticket to our retreat. We'll be announcing the winners live at the end of the month, and you can purchase a retreat ticket for just $1 if you apply for the grant, because we really want to support you. So,
Wow,
yeah,
that's
it's
amazing.
so fun. Yeah, Alex, what would you say to a woman who's like, I don't know if I should apply or should I apply? What advice would you give?
Yeah, I would just say do it because the chances of you guys of somebody winning, if there's 5 winners, that's huge. And it was so amazing in October to see the winners of that grant when you guys did it last October, and just how grateful they were and the lives that were changed. So
Yeah, it was so much fun. I can't wait to do it again. So, Alex, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else you wanted to share that we didn't get to today?
no, I think we covered it all. I'm super excited. I just hope that people, see this and really trust in themselves and make that commitment and go for it.
Yeah, thank you. I hope so too. Thank you again for being here. Thanks everybody
Yeah.
for hanging out with us. All
Yes.
right,
Thank
have a
you so
beautiful
much.
day.
Bye.
Bye.